My fiancé failed my loyalty test. I asked my best friend to test my fiancé's loyalty 3 months before our wedding. I know. That sentence alone probably makes half of you think I deserved what happened next. And maybe I did. Plan was simple. My friend would message him from an account he didn't recognize and flirt with him. If he shut her down, I would finally stop listening to the voice in my head telling me something was wrong. Instead, my fiancé flirted back. Then he agreed to meet her at a hotel. I was sitting in the hotel lobby when he walked through the doors. He saw me, stopped, and instead of looking guilty, he smiled. Then he asked if I was satisfied now. That's when I realized something. He knew. He had known about the loyalty test almost from the beginning. For a few hours, I actually thought that meant he was innocent. I thought I had destroyed my relationship because of my own paranoia. Then I found something hidden on his phone. And suddenly, the man lecturing me about trust had a lot of explaining to do. The worst part? It had nothing to do with the woman I used to test him. My name is Rachel. I'm 31. My fiancé, Luke, was 33. We had been together for almost 4 years and engaged for 10 months. Our wedding was supposed to happen in September. The venue was booked. My dress was purchased. Invitations had already been mailed. My parents had paid deposits. His mother had already started referring to me as her daughter. Everyone thought Luke and I were one of those couples who had everything figured out. And honestly, for most of our relationship, I thought so too. Luke was charming without being obnoxious. Funny. Successful. The kind of person who could talk to my 70-year-old father about fishing for an hour and then spend the next hour helping my 8-year-old nephew build Lego. When we met, I wasn't looking for anything serious. He was. Through our third date, he deleted his dating apps in front of me. I laughed and told him he was being dramatic. He told me he had already found the person he wanted to keep talking to. Cheesy. But it worked. For 3 years, I never seriously questioned his loyalty. Then something changed after we got engaged. It wasn't one big thing. It was little things. His phone started spending more time face down. He changed his passcode. He started going to the gym later. Sometimes I'd text him around 9 and wouldn't hear back until almost midnight. When I asked where he'd been, he'd say he grabbed food with friends after working out. Nothing impossible. Nothing I could prove was a lie. But something felt different. Then there was his coworker. Her name was Vanessa. Luke mentioned her constantly. Not romantically. Actually, he mostly complained about her. Vanessa messed up this report. Vanessa wanted everyone to go out Friday. Vanessa thought their new manager was an idiot. It was always Vanessa. One evening, we were having dinner when Luke's phone lit up. Her name appeared on the screen. He immediately turned the phone over. I asked if it was Vanessa. He said yes. I asked what she wanted. He said it was work stuff. It was almost 10:30 at night. When I pointed that out, he shrugged and said she was probably complaining about something. Then, for the first time in our relationship, I asked if I could see the message. His expression changed immediately. He asked if I was serious. I regretted asking and told him to forget it. But instead of showing me the message, he put his phone in his pocket. That bothered me more than the message itself. We argued. Luke said I was becoming paranoid because the wedding was getting closer. I accused him of hiding things. Then he asked if he'd ever actually given me a reason not to trust him. I couldn't give him one. Not a real one. So I apologized. For about 2 weeks, everything went back to normal. Then my friend Sophie saw Luke at a bar. I wasn't there. Luke had told me he was having dinner with coworkers. Technically, that was true. But Sophie said she saw him sitting extremely close to a woman. Vanessa. According to Sophie, Vanessa had her hand on Luke's arm. Luke wasn't pushing her away. Sophie took a picture. It looked bad. Not undeniable, but bad. I confronted Luke. He didn't deny being there. He explained that Vanessa was drunk and emotional because she'd recently broken up with her boyfriend. I asked why she was touching him. He said he didn't know because she was drunk. When I asked whether he told her to stop, he reminded me that she had only touched his arm. Again, reasonable. Again, I felt crazy. Then Luke said something that scared me. He told me that if I didn't trust him, we shouldn't be getting married. And he was right. So I did something stupid. Instead of postponing the wedding, I decided to test him. The idea actually came from Sophie. She joked that she could create a fake account, flirt with Luke, and we'd know within 5 minutes whether I had anything to worry about. We both laughed. Then I stopped laughing. Sophie immediately realized I was seriously considering it. She told me not to do it. She said if I needed to run an undercover operation on my fiancé, we already had a problem. She was right. Apparently, I was surrounded by people giving me excellent advice that I had absolutely no intention of taking. A few days later, I brought it up again. Eventually, Sophie agreed to help. She still thought it was a terrible idea, but she knew I might do it without her anyway. So we created an Instagram account for a woman named Maya. Maya was 29, had recently moved to our city and liked hiking, dogs, and expensive coffee. We made the account look believable. Then Maya followed Luke. He accepted. Nothing happened. 2 days passed. Then 3. Then 4. I started feeling ashamed of myself. Finally, Luke liked one of Maya's photos. No big deal. The next day, Sophie replied to one of his gym stories through Maya's account. She told him she needed whatever workout plan he was using. Luke joked that she should trust him because she didn't want it. Maya replied that she'd risk it. Luke joked that it would be her funeral. Still harmless. Then Maya asked which gym he went to. Luke told her. That bothered me slightly. But Sophie reminded me that I was literally trying to make him flirt and couldn't suddenly move the goalposts because he was being friendly. She was right. Then Maya suggested that maybe she'd see him at the gym sometime. We waited. Luke saw the message. 20 minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 3 hours. Nothing. I felt relief. I actually started crying. I told Sophie he had passed. She told me to delete the stupid account and never do anything like this again. I agreed. Then Luke responded. He told Maya that maybe she would see him there sometime. And he added a flirtatious wink. My stomach dropped. Sophie looked at me and admitted that wasn't ideal. That was the beginning. Over the next week, Maya and Luke messaged occasionally. First, Sophie did most of the typing while I sat beside her. Luke never mentioned having a fiancé. That bothered me immediately. His Instagram had pictures of us, but someone would have to scroll several months to find them. Eventually, Maya asked him directly if he was seeing anyone. Luke told her his relationship status was complicated. I stared at the screen. 4 years together. A wedding in 3 months. And apparently we were complicated. Maya teased him that complicated usually meant yes. Luke basically admitted that was true. So Maya asked whether he had a girlfriend. Luke told her it was something like that. Something like that. I took a screenshot. I don't know why. The messages were already right there. But seeing those words felt like collecting evidence from a crime scene. Sophie wanted to stop. She told me we already knew enough. But I said no. I needed to know how far he would go. That sentence should have scared me. Instead, it felt completely logical. So Maya flirted harder. Luke flirted back. He complimented her. Called her gorgeous. Once, Maya sent him a picture wearing a dress. Luke told her that if she was trying to get his attention, it was working. I cried in Sophie's apartment that night. She kept telling me to call off the wedding. But I wasn't ready. Part of me kept searching for an explanation. Maybe he thought it was harmless. Maybe he enjoyed the attention but would never actually cheat. So I pushed it further. Maya asked if he wanted to meet. Luke called it a dangerous idea. When she asked why, he admitted the problem was that he might actually say yes. So Maya told him to say yes. 2 hours passed without an answer. Then Luke suggested Friday. That was it. I took off my engagement ring. Sophie said we were done. I wasn't. I wanted to see him actually do it. That was my second big mistake. We chose a hotel downtown. Maya told Luke she would be staying there and suggested they meet downstairs for a drink. Friday came. I barely ate. Sophie wanted to come with me. I told her no. I needed to do this myself. I arrived early and sat in the lobby where I could see the entrance. 7:42, Luke walked in. Jeans. Black shirt. And the cologne I bought him for Christmas. My fiancé had dressed for a date with another woman. I felt physically sick. Then he saw me. He stopped. We stared at each other. I expected panic. Maybe anger. Maybe some ridiculous excuse. Instead, Luke smiled. He walked toward me, sat down across from me, and asked if I was satisfied now. I couldn't speak. Then he told me he knew about Maya. I asked how. Luke explained that Sophie had accidentally followed Maya's fake account from her personal account the day after we created it. She unfollowed almost immediately. But Luke saw the notification. Then the same mysterious new account followed him. He became suspicious. So he'd played along. Every message, every compliment, every flirtation, even agreeing to meet at the hotel. He knew. I felt relief so powerful that I almost laughed. I asked if that meant none of it was real. He said none of it was. Covered my face. I couldn't believe what I'd done. Then Luke asked if I really thought he would cheat on me. I started apologizing. I explained everything. Vanessa. The phone. The late nights. The photograph. I admitted the loyalty test had been immature and manipulative. Luke barely spoke. Then he told me he couldn't marry someone who would do something like this. My relief disappeared. I asked what he meant. He said I'd created a fake woman to trap him. I told him I did it because I was scared. He said I could have talked to him. I reminded him that I had. We argued for almost an hour. Eventually, Luke stood up and said he was staying with his brother. He wanted space. I went home alone. For the next 2 days, I genuinely believed I had destroyed the best relationship I'd ever had because of my own insecurity. Sunday evening, Luke came home. We finally talked calmly. He admitted he had handled the Vanessa situation badly. He explained that changing his phone password wasn't about another woman. He'd been planning part of our honeymoon with his brother and didn't want me seeing the messages. He even showed me the conversations. The late gym nights? He had receipts showing he'd actually been eating with friends afterward. And Vanessa? He admitted she'd become too comfortable with him. But he said he'd already spoken to her about boundaries after our argument. Then Luke handed me his phone. He told me to look. I didn't want to. I told him I didn't need to. He said that clearly I did. So I took it. I searched his messages with Vanessa. Mostly work. A few memes. Nothing romantic. I felt worse with every swipe. Maybe Luke had been right about me. Maybe I really had become paranoid. Then, while backing out of his messages, I noticed an app one didn't recognize. It looked like a calculator. I tapped it. A password screen appeared. My stomach tightened. I asked Luke what it was. He froze. Then he told me it was nothing. 2 days earlier, this man had been furious because I didn't trust him. Now he was standing in front of me telling me a password-protected app hidden on his phone was nothing. I asked him to open it. He refused. I asked again. He reached for his phone. I moved away. And suddenly, all those little things came rushing back. The changed passcode. The phone face down. The late nights. Maybe the fake account hadn't caught him because he knew Maya was fake. That didn't mean there wasn't anyone else. So I gave him a choice. If we were still getting married, he needed to open the app. Luke stared at me for several seconds. Then he entered the password. It wasn't a calculator. It was a hidden photo vault. And no, I didn't find pictures of Vanessa. What I found was worse in a completely different way. There were screenshots. Dozens of them. Dating profiles. Women. Private conversations. Some were from before we met. But many weren't. My hands started shaking. I opened one screenshot. It showed a conversation between Luke and a woman named Alyssa from 8 months earlier. She had asked when he was finally going to take her out. Luke responded that he would when his life became less complicated. There was that word again. Complicated. I opened another screenshot. Different woman. 5 months earlier. Another from 11 months earlier. Some conversations were short. Some were flirtatious. Some were clearly sexual. I asked Luke if he'd met any of them. He said no. I asked if he'd slept with any of them. Again, no. Then I asked the question that mattered. Why? Luke started crying. He admitted he had downloaded dating apps whenever we fought. Sometimes he would make an account, talk to women for a few days, then delete everything. He said he liked knowing he still had options. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He had proposed to me. We were planning a wedding. And whenever things became difficult between us, he went online to make sure other women still wanted him. Luke kept insisting it wasn't physical. Then I found a name I recognized. Vanessa. These weren't dating app screenshots. They were screenshots of text messages. In one conversation, Luke told Vanessa she'd looked good that night. Vanessa warned him to be careful because his fiancé probably wouldn't appreciate him saying that. Luke responded that I didn't need to know everything he thought. I stopped reading. Luke immediately insisted nothing had happened with Vanessa. And that's when I told him something that finally made him go quiet. I said he kept saying nothing happened as though that was something he deserved a medal for. He told me Vanessa had tried something once, but he shut it down. I asked how many other mistakes were hidden in that folder. He couldn't answer. Then something occurred to me. Why had he kept screenshots? Luke looked embarrassed. Eventually, he admitted he would delete conversations so I wouldn't find them. But before deleting them, he'd save screenshots of compliments. The messages where women flirted with him. Pictures they'd sent. He liked looking at them whenever he felt insecure. That revelation was almost sad. But it didn't hurt any less. Then I realized something else. Luke knew Maya was fake. He had deliberately flirted with her anyway. He deliberately agreed to meet her at a hotel. Why? To punish me. Luke admitted he wanted me sitting there. He wanted to see my face when he revealed he knew. He wanted to teach me a lesson about trust. Meanwhile, he had a hidden vault containing exactly the kind of behavior I'd been afraid of. I stared at him. Then I asked one question. Did you meet any of these women? Luke answered too quickly. No. I looked back at the screenshots. Not one. No. You just talked to them? Yes. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Then something caught my attention. One screenshot wasn't from a dating app. It was a hotel confirmation. I opened it. 1 room. 1 night. 2 guests. Booked 7 months earlier. My stomach dropped. I remembered that weekend. Luke told me he was staying at his brother's house because they had been drinking and he didn't want to drive home. I held up the phone. What is this? Luke's face changed. He looked at the screen. Then back at me. That isn't what you think. I actually laughed. Every time someone says that, it is exactly what you think. It was for work. 2 guests. Someone else was traveling with me. Who? Silence. Luke. He rubbed his forehead. It was a coworker. My entire body went cold. Vanessa. No. That answer somehow made it worse. Then who? He wouldn't tell me. I started scrolling. There were more confirmations. Another hotel. Another night. Another city. 3 months earlier. That weekend, Luke told me he had an early morning project meeting. Another receipt. 9 months earlier. Another. I stopped counting after 5. I felt like I was going to throw up. You said you never met them. I didn't meet women from the apps. I stared at him. That is an unbelievably specific answer. Closed his eyes. Then I understood. You cheated on me. No. Then who were you staying in hotels with? Rachel, listen. Who? He didn't answer. I screamed it this time. Who? Luke sat down. Then he whispered a name. Danielle. I had no idea who Danielle was. Apparently, she worked for another company Luke dealt with. They met at a conference. They started messaging. Then they slept together. Once. At least that's what Luke said. I asked when. 7 months earlier. 4 months after he proposed to me. I felt numb. You proposed to me while cheating? It happened after. You were engaged to me. I know. Was she the only one? Yes. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Then I said, unlock everything. What? Everything. He stared at me. Messages. Email. Deleted folders. Cloud storage. Everything. You've already invaded enough of my privacy. I almost couldn't believe it. Privacy. I held up his phone. You have a secret vault with hotel receipts and women hidden inside it. He reached for the phone. I stepped backward. If you touch this phone before I finish, I'm calling your mother and telling her exactly why there won't be a wedding. That stopped him. For the next 40 minutes, I went through everything. And Luke's definition of once kept changing. Danielle wasn't once. It was 3 times. Then I found another woman named Ashley. Luke insisted they only kissed. Then I found messages arranging a hotel. Then there was someone named Erin. He claimed nothing physical happened with Erin. But he had sent her pictures I had taken of him on our vacation. Pictures where I had been standing 3 feet away. He cropped me out. I felt sick. Every time I found something, Luke admitted exactly enough to explain what I had already proven. But nothing more. Finally, I stopped asking. I put his phone on the table. How many? He said nothing. How many women? Rachel. How many? He stared at the floor. 3. I waited. Then, maybe 4. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because the man who had walked into a hotel ready to humiliate me for testing his loyalty had been cheating for almost a year. And he had the nerve to act offended that I didn't trust him. I picked up my engagement ring. Luke looked relieved. He thought I was putting it back on. Instead, I dropped it into his glass of water. He stared at it. What are you doing? Canceling the wedding. Rachel, don't do this while you're angry. I should wait until I'm calm to decide whether I want to marry someone who cheated on me 4 times. It wasn't 4 relationships. That's your defense? They didn't mean anything. I looked at him. Neither does that ring anymore. Then I walked upstairs and locked the bedroom door. Luke stayed downstairs for almost an hour. He cried. Apologized. Knocked on the door. Promised therapy. Promised passwords. Promised he would quit his job if that's what I wanted. Then he said something that killed whatever tiny part of me was still hesitating. I only did it because you stopped making me feel wanted. I opened the door. What? He immediately tried to take it back. I didn't mean it like that. No. Finish. He said we'd been stressed. Wedding planning had taken over everything. We weren't having sex as often. I was distracted. He felt rejected. So when other women showed interest, he liked it. I stared at him. You cheated because I was busy planning the wedding you asked me to have? He started crying again. I told him to leave. He refused. The house was technically both of ours. So I called my brother. My brother arrived 20 minutes later. Luke left. The next morning, the story got worse. My phone started ringing at 8. First Luke's mother. Then his sister. Then one of our mutual friends. Luke had already told everyone the wedding was in trouble. But he didn't tell them why. His version? I created a fake woman online because I was obsessed with catching him cheating. Then I went through his phone and became hysterical over old conversations. He told people I had been paranoid for months. He said he didn't know if he could marry someone who didn't trust him. I sat on my couch listening to his mother explain that relationships couldn't survive without trust. I almost admired him. Less than 12 hours after I discovered multiple affairs, Luke had somehow made himself the victim. I let his mother finish. Then I asked, "Did Luke tell you about Danielle?" Silence. Who? Ashley. Nothing. Aaron. His mother stopped talking. Then I told her about the hotel receipts. She started crying. She apologized. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. Then I called my parents. I told them everything, including the fake account. I wasn't going to let Luke use the worst thing I did to hide what he had done. My father didn't say much. He asked one question. Is the wedding canceled? Yes. Good. That was it. Then Sophie called me. She was furious. Not at me. At Luke. Because apparently he had called her too. He blamed her for helping create Maya. He said she had poisoned me against him. Sophie recorded the entire call. I listened. Luke told her I had always been insecure. Then he said, "If Rachel hadn't done this stupid test, we'd still be getting married." Sophie asked, "What about the women?" Luke went quiet. Then he said, "She didn't need to know about that." That sentence spread faster than anything I could have posted online. Sophie didn't upload it publicly. She sent it to exactly 3 people. Me, Luke's sister, and our wedding planner, who also happened to be a mutual friend. Within 24 hours, pretty much everyone close to us knew why the wedding was canceled. Luke stopped calling Sophie after that. I thought the humiliation would make him disappear. It didn't. 3 days later, he showed up at my parents' house. I was staying there temporarily. He brought flowers. My mother opened the door. Luke asked to see me. She told him no. He said he needed 5 minutes. My father came to the door. Luke started explaining. My dad listened. Then he asked, "Did you sleep with other women while engaged to my daughter?" Luke said, "It's complicated." My father closed the door in his face. I probably shouldn't have enjoyed that as much as I did. 2 weeks passed. Luke continued emailing. Apologies. Promises. One message was 8 pages long. I didn't respond. Then I got a message from Danielle, the woman from the hotel. First, I thought Luke had given her my number. He hadn't. She found me online. Her message began with, "I think Luke lied to both of us." My stomach sank. I called her. Danielle told me Luke had said we were separated. Not having problems. Separated. He told her the wedding had been postponed. He said we still lived together because of finances. Danielle had no idea we were actively planning a wedding. When she discovered the truth, she ended things. That happened 4 months earlier, which explained why Luke had suddenly become extra affectionate around that time. He wasn't recommitting to me. He had been dumped. Danielle apologized repeatedly. I told her she didn't owe me an apology if she genuinely didn't know. Then she said something else. "Rachel, I don't think I was the first." "I know." "No." She paused. "I mean before you." Luke had told Danielle about another ex, a woman named Emma. Apparently, Emma had accused Luke of cheating years earlier. Luke called her crazy, jealous, controlling. The usual. I knew about Emma. Luke had told me she was unstable. He said she constantly checked his phone. She accused him of sleeping with coworkers. She once showed up unexpectedly at his apartment. For 4 years, I believed she was the problem. I found Emma online. I messaged her. I expected no response. She answered that night. All I wrote was, "Hi. I'm Rachel. I was engaged to Luke. Can I ask you something?" Her reply came less than a minute later. "He cheated on you too?" I stared at the screen. 2. We spoke for almost 2 hours. Her story sounded terrifyingly familiar. Changed passwords. Late nights. Women from work. Dating apps. Every time Emma became suspicious, Luke told her she was insecure. When she finally checked his phone, she found messages with multiple women. Luke used the fact that she checked his phone to convince everyone she was controlling. His friends sided with him. His family believed him. Emma lost people over it. Then she said, "Please tell me you didn't believe everything he said about me." I didn't answer. She laughed sadly. "That's okay. Everyone does." I apologized. She said it wasn't my fault. But it made something click. Luke didn't just cheat. He had a system. Do something suspicious. Deny it. Make his partner question herself. Wait until she finally investigates. Then use the investigation as proof that she is unstable. He almost did the exact same thing to me. The loyalty test wasn't what ended our relationship. It just gave Luke the perfect weapon. Except this time. I found the vault. The wedding date was still on everyone's calendars. Canceling everything was a nightmare. We lost money. A lot of it. But one thing couldn't be refunded. The venue. We had already paid almost the entire amount. Contract allowed us to change the type of event but not cancel without losing everything. Sophie had an idea. Have a party. I thought she was joking. For what? For not marrying Luke. I said absolutely not. Then my mother agreed with her. Then my brother. Eventually, I realized we'd already paid for food, music, and a venue. So we used it. Not as some dramatic anti-wedding. I didn't wear my wedding dress. We didn't smash pictures of Luke. It was basically a huge family party. I wore a red dress. Sophie gave a speech that began. At least Maya didn't need a dinner plate. Even my father laughed. For the first time in months, I had fun. Then, halfway through the night, Luke showed up. Nobody invited him. He walked into the venue wearing the suit he had bought for our wedding. The entire room went quiet. I wish I were exaggerating. He walked directly toward me. "Can we talk?" My brother started moving toward us. I told him it was okay. Luke looked around. "You turned our wedding into a party? You noticed. This is humiliating." I stared at him. "You came here voluntarily." He lowered his voice. "I need you to stop telling people things." "What things?" "About Danielle. The apps. Everything." "Are they untrue?" "No, but..." "Then what's the problem? People are treating me like I'm some monster." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then he said, "My company knows." That surprised me. Apparently, Vanessa had stopped covering for him. When coworkers started asking why the wedding was canceled, she told someone Luke had been messaging women at work. One of those women was a client. That became an HR problem. He wasn't fired, but he was being investigated for inappropriate communication with clients. Luke somehow believed this was my fault. You ruined my life. There it was. I stared at him. I didn't contact your job. None of this would have happened if you hadn't made that fake account. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Luke looked furious. What? You still think Maya caused this? She started everything. No. I shook my head. Maya wasn't real. He stared at me. Danielle was real. His expression changed. Ashley was real. Rachel. Aaron was real. People nearby were listening now. The hotels were real. Stop. The dating apps were real. He stepped closer. My brother immediately stepped between us. Luke looked around and realized half the room had heard. Then Sophie appeared beside me. She smiled. Want me to call Maya? I nearly choked laughing. Luke left. That was the last time I saw him for almost a year. I sold the wedding dress. I kept the money. And before anyone asks, no, I didn't give the ring back immediately. Luke demanded it. His mother asked politely. My lawyer told me the rules around engagement rings depended on where we lived and the circumstances, so I followed the legal advice and eventually returned it. But I made Luke come collect it through my attorney. I wasn't giving him another dramatic doorway scene. About 11 months later, Sophie sent me a screenshot. Luke was engaged again. I stared at the picture. New woman. New ring. New announcement. Caption said they had finally found the kind of love built on complete honesty. I laughed so hard my coworker asked if I was okay. Then, 3 days later, I got a message from his new fiancé. Her name was Brooke. She wrote, "Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. Luke says you're crazy, so I know you're probably going to hate me for asking this." I already knew where this was going. Her next message. Did he really cheat on you? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, yes. She asked how I found out. I told her. Not everything. Just enough. Dating apps. Hidden vault. Hotel receipts. Multiple women. She didn't respond for almost an hour. Then, I found a calculator app. I felt my stomach drop. Same app. Same trick. I asked if she had opened it. She said no. She didn't know the password. Then she asked, what was his password when you were together? I knew it, but I didn't give it to her. Instead, I said, ask him to open it. Brooke replied. He says it's just a calculator. I stared at that sentence. Almost 2 years later, Luke hadn't even changed the lie. The next morning, Brooke messaged again. There were only 4 words. The wedding is off. I never asked what she found. I didn't need to. And that's the ending I think about whenever someone asks me whether Luke passed my loyalty test. Maya wasn't real. Luke knew that. So technically, he never fell for the trap I created. But a year after our wedding was supposed to happen, another woman found the same hidden app. And this time, there was no fake account. No Sophie. No loyalty test. Just Luke. And whatever he still couldn't stop hiding.